Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing today? Well, I didn't plan on doing this video today over here, but I just got done Zooming with my therapist. I had my therapy appointment today, and I just got done talking about my OCD for the last hour, of which she has given me some homework to do. So I wanted to kind of give you guys an update because something that he said to me was really interesting. And first of all, I just want to say thank you guys so much for the support that you have given me on my video. And there was like a lot of people that have reached out to me and said, thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing the story and things like that. You know, I have come across so many people in my life that have suffered from OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. I did a whole video talking about it over here. And I've met so many people that have similar OCD to mine, but somewhat different, and their rituals are different and things like that. And so it was interesting in this session today because he had kind of given me some homework before, and then he said, but I don't really like want to start it until, like, you know, you get back from a trip from Arizona and things like that, because it could be a distraction. So when you get back, we're going to really start it fully and things like that. So today we talked about the two things that we're doing in therapy to combat the OCD is, and this is like phobias and OCD are like one of his specialties. And so the two things that we're doing is confronting fears. And because for me, like, my OCD is that I have certain rituals that I do, like tapping and things like that. Stepping in certain places, whatever, and you know, having certain trigger words that I avoid and things like that. And so one of the things that we're doing is to kind of just like directly discuss all of the fears, because ultimately what the OCD is about for me is that I feel like if I don't do these rituals, then certain fears will come true. And for example, like people harassing me and stalking me and things like that, and like what will ultimately truly happen, you know, like, and a lot of those fears of things of, you know, contacting doctors and things like that I've talked about in previous videos. And so that's a lot of my fear, right? And so one of the things that I'm doing is talking to him a lot about what those fears are and kind of working through those. And he gave me some suggestions to kind of confront those fears directly and things that he wants me to do. But before all that, we were talking about the fact that one of the craziest things for me, because I do feel like, and I know this is not an appropriate word, but I'm just telling you how I feel. I do feel like I'm crazy when I'm doing these things. And it was interesting because when I did this video before, so many people were like, oh my God, I totally feel you on this. Like when you're doing the rituals and things like that, they do feel crazy, right? And like, I know as I'm doing them, like, there's not some like God up there, or I don't believe that there is, that's like, if Peter doesn't tap this cup 4 times, you know, then something horrible is going to happen, yada, yada, yada. Which I have to tell you, I got a comment on my video on my drama channel yesterday, and I don't know if the person meant it to be funny or sarcastic. There's somebody that like commented on my videos before. I did block them because I thought it was cruel what they said. Even if they meant it in a joking way, then they really have no sensitivity towards people. But one of the things that I had shared was that in videos, I often say things 4 times, right? And so they made a comment on my video, something to the effect of, like, your OCD is really showing because you're saying things 4 times. And then they made like a joke and said, but you didn't say this 4 times, something, something, something. And I thought that's really cruel that you would take that and throw that in you would take somebody's mental health issue and throw it in their face. And so I did block them for that reason, and I don't feel bad about that. You know, I think that's really sick and twisted that you would take somebody's mental health issue that they're being so vulnerable and honest about and throw it in somebody's face. I thought, like, who would do that? You know, like, I don't really understand that at all. But The reason I share this story is for other people out there that maybe are going through similar things, and, you know, I suggest you find help for it and work through these things as well, because I have a lot of hope after talking to my therapist that I can overcome this at some point and hopefully be ritual free. And he said the peace of mind that you're going to have from this, and that your mental health is going to greatly improve as a result of like working through these rituals and things like that, you know? So that was like the first thing that he suggested on. But before that, he really wanted me to start working on each of these rituals individually, and like taking 1 or 2 a week and like just pushing through the rituals. And the rituals can be anything from like tapping on something to like very specific, like tapping on this, or checking the locks on the door, or checking my alarm clock, or stepping on certain stairs when I go up the stairs. I mean, it's a lot. I have a lot of rituals. And so in talking about it, like he had suggested to me that he wanted me to push through 1 or 2 of them a week, right? And he initially said just start with 1, and that was what we had done. And so I had been working on 1, and so this week he said we're going to try 1 or 2 this week, maybe 2, right? And I was asking him, I said, you know, like one of the things that's so frustrating to me is that I constantly am inventing new rituals, like on the spot, like as I go. And I gave him an example. And I just made this up. This wasn't something that actually happened, but like this was something that would happen. So I did a review of this pizza today from Little Caesars Pizza, and there was a sticker over the edge of the pizza. Now in my head would come up with a ritual on the spot, and this is where I know it sounds crazy, but like this is literally how my mind works. Like I would look at the sticker, and in my head, my head would say, you have to like slice back and forth 4 times with your finger before you can open the box. And then I would feel this compulsion that I had to do that. And if I didn't do that, then something bad was going to happen, right? And so I have these compulsions. And I was explaining to him, and I was saying, you know, like, is this normal? He said, oh yeah, it's really normal. Usually around times of really high stress that people are, and he knows like what I've been dealing with the stalking and harassment and things like that. And he said, you know, it's really normal that people develop constantly new rituals and things like that, which is why it's kind of hard to sometimes keep them in check and things like that. And I said, yeah, it's like really frustrating. Like it's really overwhelming to constantly, I mean, it really is like time consuming, overwhelming, and frustrating to like keep up with it all. And it's pretty constant. I mean, in all honesty, like I was telling him, like, you know, there's been like years at a time where I like didn't really deal with it, except for maybe like very low level OCD, like here and there. And then there's been, you know, years at a time, but it's been pretty constant, I would say, for a while now. And it's really frustrating. And so when we were talking about the beginning of like the new rituals, he said to me, he goes, okay, we're going to change the assignment for this week. And I said, okay. And he goes, we're not going to work through the 1 or 2 of your rituals. What we're going to do is, I don't want you to start any new rituals for 1 week. That's all you're going to do. And I said, okay. And he said, anytime a new ritual comes into your head, I don't want you to engage in it. So if your mind tells you to, you know, do this with a pizza box or whatever, like, don't engage in it. He goes, it can come into your head. Because I said, well, I can't stop it from coming into my head. And he goes, no, but you cannot engage in it. And I said, that's true, that's right, okay? Because I have had some improvement with this, with like pushing through certain ones of my rituals. And then I explained to him, I said, because we go to his office for marriage counseling, he has this couch in there, and I, you know, whatever, I typically sit on the right-hand side, and I said something to him about, like, if I came to your office just one time, and I knew I was going to only be there one time, but I walked in the room, and I had to pick the left or the right-hand side of the couch. Like, my mind would tell me, sit on the left-hand side of the couch, right? Not just, like, normal people that walk in and go, oh, I guess I'll sit on the left-hand side, but my mind would say, like, I'm just making this up, but, like, my mind would have this compulsion to say, sit on the left-hand side of the couch, right? Or the session will go bad, or whatever, right? Or something will happen, you know, or like the session will go bad, or whatever. And he goes, okay, but now you're talking about the difference between compulsions and rituals. And I said, what's the difference? And he said, all rituals start as compulsions, but not all compulsions end up becoming rituals. And I said, oh, wow. And he's like, so the OCD part, you know, is the compulsion, the C is the compulsion part of it, you know, the where you felt like you have this compulsion to do something that you feel like you have to do. And he's like, but it can happen just one time. Like, it can just come into your head, and that can be like this new invented rule that you have to do this one time. And I said, okay. And he goes, so what I'm asking you to do is, if you can do this, he said, if a new rule comes into your head and you don't engage in that and you don't do it that one time, then it won't become a ritual, and we will stop new rituals from forming. Because then it's just a compulsion, and you're not engaging in the compulsion. He goes, a ritual has to be something that you do at least twice. He said it has to be something that you do at least 2 or 3 times. So if you just engage in this, if you just engage in the thought, but you don't follow through with the compulsion, then it never has a chance to become a ritual because you're not doing it more than once. And I was like, oh my God, this is like, I never thought of it that way, right? Like, I know that most people are like, okay, Peter, that's pretty obvious, right? But like, I really had never thought of it that way. And I was like, okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to like work on not inventing any new rituals this week. And he said, so what will happen is, because this is typically what happens. So I'll have like a new rule in my head, and I'll think to myself, okay, I have to do this. And it can just be like all of a sudden, I mean, it can be like in the middle of me filming a video, I can come up with some kind of like ritual compulsion that I think that I have to like start following this rule, right? Like, I can just make this up right now, but like, let's just say if in my head I said I have to keep my head completely still for the rest of this video. I cannot move it. It has to stay like in between this picture and these 2 things. Like, that would be a rule that like I would think in my head, and then from that point on, from the rest of the video, I couldn't move, okay? So that would be like a new rule that I would make up in my head, and then I would feel like I had to do it. Well, often, I don't even realize it until I've done it, let's say 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, something like that, right? Okay, so, like, for example, I just did 8 times, okay, because that's one of my rituals. 4, 8, 12, 16, okay? So, 9 times. Let's just say if I, you know, whatever, I do it 9 times. So let's work through that. And so then, I don't even realize that I've started that new ritual. But what's happened since I started to talk about it, and I'm more aware of it, and I've been working on it with him on it, is that these new rituals that come into my head, like, as soon as they come into my head, like, I'm realizing it. Like, as the rule is being formed in my head, I'm realizing it immediately. And so what he's asked me is to not follow through with those new rules, and therefore there will be no new rituals that will be built. And then next week, when I have no new rituals, then I will start again working on eliminating 1 or 2 a week, as well as not developing any new rituals, and then we'll eliminate the rituals one by one, as well as working through the fear in the therapy sessions. And so I'm starting to feel a lot of hope. I just wanted to let you guys know that. But understanding the difference between compulsions and rituals really helped me a lot. And so for anybody out there that, you know, is dealing with the same thing, I wanted to share that with you. I'm sure it's probably not new news to a lot of people out there, but it really made a lot of sense to me in a way that I hadn't thought about it before. So anyway, I just wanted to share that update with you guys. And I appreciate you guys for continuing to listen to my story. And I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.